und schwadroniert nicht einfach 4 Minuten rum. Kein Nerv dafür.
Lasers, it is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian. Hi guys, doing today? Welcome to a brand new video. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be talking about the atomic heart controversy. Now, if you guys don't follow video games or if you are out of the loop right now, Atomic Heart is a video game that is currently in development that is coming out relatively soon, which is a first-person shooter that is set in a sort of a utopian, retro-futuristic version of the Soviet Union that is winning the Cold War and became very technologically advanced. And the game is being developed by a studio named Monfish, which has roots in Russia, was funded in Russia, and the majority of the developers on the team are Russian. Now, this game is absolutely blowing up right now, getting millions of views and everything. However, it's not all positive attention because people online, a lot of them being Ukrainians, have noticed certain things about this game that are kind of sus, which are worth criticizing. So the main points that are being made right now is that, first of all, the developers are a Russian studio that are kind of trying to hide the fact that they're a Russian studio. There is evidence that the game's funding and investors are related to the Kremlin. The company has not openly denounced Russia's actions in Ukraine, and overall, a lot of people describe this game as a sort of a propaganda piece that is meant to glorify Russia in the Soviet Union and sort of promote Russia in the West. There's more smaller points that we'll get to as well, but this has been a huge point of discussion online. Quite literally a few days ago, a Ukrainian YouTuber Hyrenko made a video talking about all these issues which blew up, and in today's video I want to try and dissect this controversy, and I want to make one thing clear before we get into this video. I'm not trying to defend Atomic Heart or its developers, and if you guys would ask me the question whether you should buy this game or not, I would personally say no, because it is very highly likely that the money from this game will go to the Russian governments in some way or the other. So if you have a pro-Ukrainian stance, I would say probably not. You shouldn't buy.
Okay, dann werde ich es nicht spielen. Ich habe es mir runtergeladen, weil es im Xbox Game Pass ist, dann werde ich es aber nicht spielen.
And I personally am not really going to play it because, well, personally I didn't know much about this game until this controversy started, and I played Gran Turismo 4 and Need for Speed Underground 2. I've been doing it for 15 years and I'm feeling great. So the point of this video is not to try to rebuke the points being made about the game. I want to make this video to give a different perspective because I actually watched a couple of Russian YouTubers reacting to this, and quite frankly it was a very painful watch because all of these videos are just full of whataboutism, you know, saying stuff along the lines of, oh, if you're so woke, then why did you buy and support American games during America's invasion of Iraq? Or a lot of these videos just, you know, seem Z on the low where, you know, these people are just basically saying, oh, if you're such a defender of Ukraine, why aren't you on the front lines right now instead of, you know, talking to me on Reddit? You know, classic 1000 IQ takes. So I decided that I'm gonna make this video to give a sort of a level-headed take of a Russian that is not Z and who doesn't have complete gamer brain where, you know, you just make takes along the lines of, I don't care about what's going on in the world politically, I just want to play my video games. All these woke people are canceling too much these days. I'm buying deluxe edition of both Atomic Heart and Hogwarts Legacy. Up yours, woke moralists. So yeah, those people suck, and those seem like the majority of the people that are defending this game right now. So let's cover it step by step, and the first point is the connection to the Russian government. The main things that the people found concerning about this game overall are the investors and the developers themselves and their back.
Ja, ich finde den Boykott richtig. Weil die, wie sagt man, sie kriegt ihren Anteil, die J.K. Rowling, und mit dem Geld, also sie ist ja nicht daran beteiligt oder irgendwie sowas, so, sie kriegt ja ihren prozentualen Teil und sie nimmt das Geld, um aktiv ihre scheiß Drecks-Piss-Meinung und ihren Hass zu verteilen, und damit, wenn du das Spiel kaufst, kriegt sie noch mehr Cash und dann kann sie noch mehr Millionen spenden an Anti-Trans-Organisationen geben. Also so auf dem Papier macht es Sinn, das zu boykottieren, wenn dich sowas interessiert. Menschlichkeit.
So let's talk about the investors first. There's three main investors into this game. The first one is Tencent, which is a Chinese company, well known and loved obviously, and two Russian companies known as GM Capital and Gaijin Entertainment. Now Gaijin
So wie die jetzt, wenn ich das Game spiele, kriegen die Russen mehr Geld. Wenn ich jetzt über den Xbox Pass spiele, für jede Stunde oder jede 15 Minuten kriegen die Geld.
Entertainment is a pretty well-known Russian game publishing.
Wird in Russland versteuert. Wurde wahrscheinlich, wie sie gesagt haben, vermuten sie, es wurde vom Kreml auch bezahlt. Anteilig, das heißt, der Kreml kriegt dann auch wieder Geld zurück. Wieder wahrscheinlich, wenn ich das jetzt spielen würde, die 16 Stunden, werden das wahrscheinlich wieder, weiß ich nicht, 30 Schuss mehr Munition, weißt du?
and development studio. They made War Thunder, for example. Apparently, there's a bunch of people in this Gaijin company that are pretty Z, but it's not really affiliated with the government. The main point is actually the next investor, the GEM Capital. The head of GEM Capital is a man named Anatoly Pali, who actually previously held an important position and works in one of Gazprom's subsidiaries, Gazenergosеть. Now, I don't know if I need to explain what Gazprom is. Gazprom is literally one of the biggest monopolizers of the natural resources in Russia. They're directly related to the government, and essentially the head of the main investor into the game, he was a Gazprom employee, and obviously he has connections there, and it's not far-fetched to say that Gazprom money was used to fund this game. Again, I don't really think there's concrete proof, but just by the way Russia works, and I know the way it works, that is probably what happens. This gentleman, Pali, is also quite connected to Russia's VTB bank, so it's not far-fetched to say that the Russia's financial sector probably also invested in this game. And just like the YouTuber Harenko said in his video, investments will be returned, so these companies will be remunerated for this game. Yes, it's very highly likely that if you buy an Atomic Heart, your money might go to Gazprom or a certain oligarch or Russian bank or something like that. We will get.
Okay, ja. Wer das unter das spielt, kriegen die Cash dafür.
Back to this topic a little bit later. Now let's talk about
genau in die falschen Hände. Kein kleiner süßer Entwickler, sondern sehr regierungsnahe Unternehmen.
Monfish is currently located in Cyprus, which they moved to from Russia in 2022 for obvious reasons once again. And originally Monfish was a Moscow-based studio. Now a lot of the people criticizing developers right now are saying that essentially these, are Russians that moved to Cyprus
just to avoid sanctions and negative spotlight.
It's kind of a moot point from my perspective at least, because I don't think there's really anything bad in itself about trying to leave an oppressive regime and trying to start a new life and a new business somewhere else. Guys, I literally cannot hate these developers for this, because I've done the exact same thing. I moved from Russia to Georgia, and I'm on different reasons, like me being disgusted at what my country is doing. One of the reasons was also for me to be able to make money and choosing to live and work instead of starving, so I really cannot blame them for this. However, an additional fact here is that yes, technically they did take money from investors that are closely related to the government. I have never taken money from the government ever in my life, so it's a little bit different, but still, I get where they're coming from. Now, the CEO of Monfish used to work in PR and management in mail.ru, which is one of Russia's biggest social media conglomerates that also owns Vkontakte, VK, which is Russia's biggest social network. And the CEO's affiliation with this company in the past is, shown that basically he's a pro-Russian shill.
It doesn't take much to figure out that a platform that is based in Russia, directed and controlled by Russia, and is used only by Russians will have a strict pro-Russian stance.
I mean, yes guys, Mail.ru, they're as Z as they can get, and they can suck my nuts, to be frank. I stopped using their services a very long time ago because it's literally the KGB version of Facebook, But Mail.ru is an industry giant in Russia. This is a company that employs thousands upon thousands of people, and claiming that every single person that worked for the company is like automatically Z or something, I just don't think that's very fair. However, the truth is that this game is actually still in partnership with Mail.ru, and Mail.ru is actually acting as one of the publishers of the game because the game is being released on a sort of a Russian like Steam/Epic Games launcher copycat, whatever, called VK Play. Currently, due to sanctions and stuff, Russians are technically allowed to buy games on Steam and stuff, so I guess this is logical. This was their way to release the game in Russia so that regular Russians will be able to buy it. So yeah, they are continuing to work with Mail.ru, which is, not great in my opinion, but I guess the point here is that they're trying to release their game in the country where they're from, and Russia is a huge market for them, so it seems very logical to me. Also, some dirt was found on the founder of Monfish,
Yevgenia Sidova. She worked at New Media Stars, where she was in charge of the computer graphics department. That company is now in charge of various pro-Russian mass media, such as Vzгляд.ru and Dni.ru.
Again, yes, working with companies that are affiliated with Russian media isn't great, and you guys know that I really don't like Z Media. But again, I just don't really see the connection of how somebody who works as the head of the graphics department in a company.
Es ist noch beschissener, es wird mit jeder Minute wird es beschissener, wird es noch mehr verzwickter.
Is responsible for what Russian governmental media is spouting. Honestly, the way this looks for me is that in Russia, if you're an IT specialist, a PR manager, whatever, etc., if you're good at your job, there's a very huge possibility that one of these industry giants that are of course connected with the government, because in Russia you have to be, that they will employ you. And claiming that every single person who's ever worked in any of these companies is Z is just not right in my opinion. I personally know people who used to work in Yandex, which is like Russia's, search engine, which is working and operating in Russia, and they basically, succumb to Russia's efforts to make this company essentially work for the regime. And I've met people who worked in that company and who were disgusted with what the company is doing, and they left and then continued working.
Warte mal, es interessiert mich jetzt die Definition von Regime. An der Macht stehende Partei? Regime? Regime. Einem bestimmten politischen System entsprechend von ihm geprägte Regierung. Ah, Schema, System, Ordnung. Meist abwertend, ja.
Working on other projects. So are those people Z as well? I mean, I don't know, man. It's kind of the same logic as saying that every Russian doctor is Z because they work in a governmental institution that is the hospital. I don't know, dude. I've also seen some Russians in the comments make the point saying that, well, Zelensky also worked for Russian companies before when he was taking part in Russian TV shows and stuff like that, so you guys should hate Zelensky as well because he worked for Russian governmental channels. I don't think that's really a fair take and those are not the same things, but nevertheless, I understand the point, but I'm just not fully there, you know? Now let's get to the statement that the developers made about Russia's actions in Ukraine. Now this statement actually made before February 24, 2022. Guys, we have noted the questions surrounding where we at Mountfish stand. We want to assure you that Mountfish is a developer and a studio with a global team focused on an innovative game and is undeniably a pro-peace organization against violence against people. We do not comment on politics or religion. Rest assured, we are a global team focused on getting Atomic Heart into the hands of gamers everywhere. So essentially the criticism right now is that this company is Russian, they're trying to ship out a game for a worldwide audience, so they should have a more of a firm stance on this and basically publicly voice support for Ukraine. And I definitely agree with this point to some degree, however, I think that making the statement sort of vague and weak is understandable because these people are Russian citizens, they do not want to be in trouble with the governments, they want to...
Ja, wenn die da irgendwas sagen würden, würden die richtig weggefickt werden wahrscheinlich. Wenn die sagen würden, ja, scheiß auf Russland. Ja, aber wir sind Russland. Scheiß auf Russland. Oh, drückst den Knopf und der MSF kommt dich abholen.
Be able to go back, they want to be able to see their families again. And I know people that are being bombed in Ukraine don't really care about this. And that's completely fair. Once again, you guys have the rights to not care about these people's feelings or their carefulness in approaching the matter. But I'm just saying that I see their logic. Apart from that, these people also have obligations to their contractors, the investors, the publishers. A lot of these companies are Russian. And these obligations, these contracts just simply do not allow these developers to fully and openly voice their opinion. And the point here is not to say that they're saints and they deserve no backlash for this. I'm just explaining their thought process. It's not super easy to speak your mind out when you're tied to an oppressive regime in a lot of ways. And I think that most people in their position would act the exact same way. And look, I've been getting the same exact type of hate on my channel as well, saying that I'm not doing enough or I'm not being open enough, not saying enough, because people want everybody to be a hero that will throw their freedom away to make a statement. Well, unfortunately, most human beings are not like that. And also, as far as I understand, the developers actually are trying to distance themselves from Russia as much as possible. Even in like their about page about the developers on the game's website, they don't even mention Russia as one of the countries that is developing the game. And a lot of people essentially are saying that they're basically, you know, sly, very scummy people that are trying to basically make the public overlook the fact that they come from Russia and that their game is funded by Russia. But honestly, to me, this just looks like a group of talented individuals who had the luck to be born in
SF, Markus Söd, S-Fänger, ja. Ja, so hätte Söder das wahrscheinlich richtig
Russia
gerne.
and they just tried to do what they loved. Make
Welche Parteien kann man da eigentlich noch wählen in Bayern? Außer CSU
video games.
und Freie Wähler und AfD.
And when this special military operation started, they decided to leave Russia and continue their work elsewhere. And since they come from Russia and they got the investments from the country where they grew up in and which they're citizens of, now they're stuck in this weird position. And I understand that if you're Ukrainian, you probably have zero sympathy to these people, and I'm not asking you to have sympathy for these people. The point that I'm trying to make here is that I don't see why everybody is like so surprised, to be honest. Because yes, the developers are from Russia, but the point that I'm trying to make is that everybody in Russia that has real money has connections to the government. You know, one thing that I try to do in my life is that I always try to understand people and put myself in other people's shoes. You know, a lot of the times I'm trying to put myself in Ukrainians' shoes and sort of accept that these people have a lot of hate for Russians right now. And in fact, I do this all the time to sort of try to humble myself and to make myself feel less offended when I see, you know, Ukrainians talking, you know, negatively about every Russian online and stuff. It does make me sad and kind of angry sometimes, but I just try to put, you know, the things and the events in perspective and see like that these people have the right to feel that way, you know? And in this case, I'm also trying to put myself into the shoes of these developers. If you're Russian and you're trying to get your game off the ground in 2017, you live in Russia, you've lived your whole life in Russia, it's only logical that you're gonna be looking for investors. And there's like an insane chance that those investments will be related to governmental oil money. Because in Russia, pretty much everything is monopolized by the government. The media, the finance sector, the social media, these people probably didn't even have any other way to get this investment just because of the messed up way that Russia is structured, you know? And also, like I already said, if you're an IT, PR, whatever, there is a huge chance that you will end up working working for a company that is an industry-leading giant in this country, in Russia, but of course that company will be affiliated with the government. Because that company would not be able to exist otherwise if it was not affiliated with the government. So yeah, what I'm saying here is I just don't understand like what the implication is. I guess the developers should just stop being Russian, but that's not something you can do. You cannot change who you are and you cannot change the place that you grew up in. Now the second point that is also being made currently is that this game is essentially Soviet/Russian propaganda. So Atomic Heart takes place in the 1950s in the fictional version of the USSR, which became super technologically advanced after the end of the Second World War, and the game's entire setting and theme is all revolved around the Soviet aesthetic, and you actually even play as a KGB agent in this game. So overall this game is like a steampunk Bioshock take on a Soviet Union with robots and whatnot. So a lot of people right now online are saying that this game is essentially a piece of Russian imperialist propaganda that is meant to sort of glorify the Soviet Union, basically glorifying communism. And honestly, I would say that this viewpoint is also rooted in real concern because Russian propaganda these days is pretty related to Soviet imagery. Just watch my previous video about Stalinism and Russia returning. So yeah, Russia right now loves evoking this sort of patriotic feelings about the US.
Also ist Atomic Heart dazu auch noch sehr krass propagandistisch, wo du dann im Vergleich bei Bioshock eigentlich bloß eine Kritik des westlichen Systems des Kapitalismus hast. Und hier das Individualismus. Und dann hast du hier einfach nur die Glorifizierung.
USSR, and since this game has relations to governmental funding as well, people see it as basically as a Russian psyop that is made to sort of change the perception of Russia in the USSR in the eyes of the Westerners and make it more positive. Now personally, this is a point I'm kind of skeptical towards as well. As far as I see it, any game or movie or any piece of fiction taking place in the USSR doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to glorify the Soviet Union. By that logic, a movie like The Death of Stalin glorifies the USSR, you know? To me, this game basically looks like Soviet Wolfenstein, you know? It seems that this game would be pretty ironic and, you know, critical of the Soviet system overall. However, I can be completely wrong because the game did not even come out yet and nobody really knows what the story is going to be like and what the overall message of the game is going to be like. So I may very well be wrong, and when this game comes out it's actually going to be Z, and this video will age very poorly. But yeah, personally I just don't see it. Now I know there's already a gotcha waiting for me because people have already compared this game to Wolfenstein Online, and I saw on Twitter how apparently the game company threw like a Soviet thematical party to hype up the game's release in Russia, which was basically Soviet themed. It had like Soviet banners on the walls and everything saying, you know, glory to Soviet engineers and stuff like that. And you know, people are making these points here. Actually, Atomic Heart is critical of the Soviet regime. Meanwhile, Atomic Heart party, glory to Soviet engineers, comrade, join the society of tomorrow. I mean, I don't see how those can be ironic, but another tweet here as well. Imagine if developers of Wolfenstein had a Nazi themed party. Look guys, I am not a fan of the Soviet Union, and I've made that clear on this channel for a long time, and the people who actually love the Soviet Union, they hate me. All these tanky subreddits like Shit Liberals Say and Jen Zedong, etc. They post my videos all the time and basically make fun of me for being, you know, a Russian libtard that hates the glorious Soviet Union. And they're completely right in their assessment, by the way. So yeah, I don't think the Soviet Union was great, and it was terrible for a lot of people that were colonized by it, and it was terrible for Russians as well. But in my mind, equating the Third Reich to the Soviet Union is a little bit too much. And dude, I hate to say this because I sound like a fucking defender of the Soviet Union right now. However, I just don't think it's that fair to equate the two. And if anything, if you want to make a satire and a mockery of the Soviet Union, Russians should be the people to do it, because Russia needs to sort of rethink the Soviet times and actually study it, and doing a parody of that is one of the ways to do it. But yeah, the game is not out yet, so we don't know the full story, so if this game turns out to be Z, fair. But the main point here is that a Soviet setting does not necessarily mean glorifying the USSR. Now there's also another point that is being mentioned a lot right now, is that Atomic Heart actually has its terms of service up on the game page in Russian, and people have read those terms of services and got pretty concerned. They're now deleted, by the way, from the game's website, which is also pretty concerning and is, you know, not a good look for the developers. But basically, the game's TOS mentioned that the Russia's Federal Security Service, the FSB, gets access to your information if you play this game, like your location, your name, etc. And yes, I do have to agree, this is sus. This is something that the developers definitely need to address, because there's a lot of Westerners that are going to be playing this game that are actually concerned.
Oh, also das macht ja alles noch mal schlimmer. Das ist, also, nee, die müssen das nicht wissen, wirklich nicht.
About that. But honestly, I would not be even surprised if
ich habe das Spiel noch nicht gestartet, ich habe es gerade eben deinstalliert.
This is like some standard terms of service for any Russian sort of app or software. Because you guys gotta understand, to be able to run a social media in Russia, to be able to release anything in Russia, you essentially have to give the government access to that. So all these Russian social networks like VK, etc., Russian security services have full access to all your info there. So the point is, everything that is being released in Russia, if you're a Russian citizen, if you use that, you're already being monitored, you're already being watched. So there's a huge possibility that this is actually just the basic point of terms of service for like anything that is released in Russia, because you have to give them access to those things. But yeah, you know, I would like to say that I'm probably gonna be avoiding playing Atomic Heart just for this reason alone. But yeah, it might very much be the case that Russia is trying to get your info, and
holy shit, auf jeden fucking Fall, was soll das
Russia
denn?
wouldn't be the first or the last country to do this. China is doing this all the time, and if you use TikTok, China already has your information. If you play any of the Tencent games, China already has your information. And now I guess Russia will have your information as well. I'm not saying it's not a big deal or anything, it is a concern. I just personally can't really imagine how Russia might use this information against Westerners if they have Westerners information. But I'm not even exactly sure the way it is here. Maybe those terms of service only work on the territory of the Russian Federation and doesn't actually work for the West or anything. Again, it's very vague. The situation is pretty sus overall, so the developers definitely need to address this. They definitely need to address if Westerners' personal info will be compromised and somehow sent to Russia if they play this game. So yeah, they definitely need to comment on this, but I definitely wouldn't, you know, put it past them that they're collecting information, you know. I'm just saying that I would not be very surprised. So, in conclusion, overall this is a pretty messy situation, and some things about the developers are definitely sus. So once again, I'd like to say that if you're pro-Ukraine, then you probably should not buy this game. However, I just don't think it's very fair to immediately dub this game as a piece of Soviet propaganda and say that all the developers are basically Z. Now, do I think that this game will sell, and do I think that, you know, this sort of controversy will actually impact the sales of the game? I think it will impact the sales of the game a little bit, but in my opinion, this game will probably still sell. Because as far as I look on YouTube and stuff, the feedback and the majority of the discussion about this game seems to be pretty positive, and it's getting millions of views, it's becoming very popular, you know. And overall, in a messed up way, this outrage sort of kind of promotes the game as well. I've already been on Reddit and I've seen like Z pro-Russian Westerners comments and saying, oh, the woke are trying to cancel this game. Yeah, I'm gonna buy this game just to combat the woke cancel culture. Just complete cringe. And overall, a lot of this controversy does sort of remind me of the Hogwarts Legacy controversy that's going on right now as well. But ultimately, I think with even the Hogwarts Legacy controversy, I don't think it's something that will ultimately affect the game's sales very much. And if you guys want my opinion, by the way, I'm personally not gonna be playing Hogwarts Legacy because Harry Potter is for 40-year-old divorced women or children. But also the thing about Atomic Heart you gotta realize is that, well, this is gamers we're talking about, right? And a lot of gamers honestly usually don't care about what's going on in the world, what's going on in politics. They just want to play their game with big booba robots and not care about anything, and not care about the woke cancel culture. And honestly, the sad truth about all of this is that as much as people in Russia or Ukraine think that the world's attention is, you know, basically fully on them right now, and both Russia and Ukraine think that what's going on right now is like the most important thing ever. And it is though. It is though. For me, it absolutely is. For Ukrainians, it absolutely is. But the sad truth is that for a lot of people in the West, life just goes on and they don't care. The West doesn't truly realize the post-Soviet experience, you know? So the majority of the gaming community, and we know that the brightest minds of the world are part of the gaming community, of course, always. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to just overlook this, and the game is still gonna sell. However, still, I do not think that this controversy is pointless, and I think that raising awareness about this is very important. So, I know a lot of people probably gonna hate me because of this video, but one of the reasons why I want to make this video as well is also spread awareness, so that people can basically decide if this is something they want to support or not. But like I said, I am not buying the game.
Endlich habe ich ein Video gefunden. Ich wusste, ich habe irgendwo am Anfang, als das Game rauskam, habe ich irgendwas gelesen, irgendwas gehört und Gott sei Dank, ich wollte es spielen. Es sieht nämlich echt gut aus, so.
Because I'm sure
Aber
some of the tax money, some
wenn
of
die
the
das in Cash kriegen und der KGB dann weiß, wo ich bin, ist halt auch nicht ganz so gut, ne?
Returns to Russia. I just don't think it's really fair to demonize and dehumanize the people that are behind the game. So yeah, I think this is gonna be pretty much it for today's video though. If you guys did enjoy, then please make sure to slap the like on it. As well guys, if you want to support me additionally, if you want to donate to me, go over to link down in the description, you got my YouTube membership thing right there. And yeah guys, thank you so much for watching this video once again, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Ja. These guys just decided to create a game based on particular part of Russia's history and turn it in futuristic fantasy. We just happen to relive the very dark part of this history again. Die haben echt Pech gehabt. Das wäre wahrscheinlich ein übelst krasses Brett gewesen für russische Entwickler, so ein Game an die internationale Gemeinde zu kriegen, und dann kriegt Putin ein Small PP Alert und rennt nackt durch sein Oberstübchen und schickt Soldaten über die Grenze. What the fuck?